coming today. Obviously, there's been many of you have called about the robbery that occurred this morning at 3900 block of Roma Avenue. I've given you an opportunity to talk with the victim in this case, Elliot Firby. Mr. Firby lives here in the city of Sarasota. And the details in the case, I will also introduce Detective Tom Laughlin, who's the lead detective. There's also other detectives in the room that are currently working on this case. I do respect and thank you for coming and would applaud Mr. Firby for giving you guys an opportunity to hear the story that happened to him today. I can tell you the initial is there was a 911 call placed. I've requested a copy of that 911 call. I have not received that yet. When I get that, I can give you the official copy. Obviously, the caller is here, but if you would like to have that information. And officers responded and called out detectives. So at this point, once again, I'd like to thank you all for coming, and I'll turn it over to Detective Laughlin at this point about his investigation.
Basically, the officers of the Sarasota Police Department Patrol Division did an excellent job of following up with the leads that Mr. Firby gave to us. As far as we were able to locate the suspect, one of the suspects of the two, the suspect vehicle, which has been towed and is here now being processed. One person was injured, one suspect was injured as a result of a gunfire. That person is facing charges of attempted armed robbery with a firearm. And that's about it.
The suspect in this case is currently at Sarasota Memorial Hospital. He has been identified in the press release as Brandon Ellis. He will be under guard at the hospital until he is released, and at which point he'll be booked into the Sarasota County Jail. Mr. Ellis is a juvenile, even though he'll be facing probably adult charges. That'll all be determined by the state attorney, but due to the violence in this incident. So at this point, Mr. Firby, if you'd like to give a brief statement about what happened, and I'm sure they have plenty of questions for you.
I got off from work last night, or this morning, approximately 2:30, and on the route home, there was a pickup truck that I was in back of when I got turned on to University. And apparently he, for some reason, he pulled over to the right lane and let me by, and he got behind me and followed me to my house. At which time I got to the house, I opened the gate. Guy jumps out on the passenger side with a pump shotgun. Tells me to give it up, sir, and which I immediately reached for my weapon, which I had in my pocket. And I did what I had to do to keep from being killed, looking down the business end of a pump shotgun.
What type of weapon were you carrying?
A .380.
How long have you been carrying and having a concealed weapon?
I've been having a concealed weapons permit for over a year, I believe.
Mr. Firby was issued this permit on April 14, 2008. He is fully licensed by the state to carry a concealed firearm. As I noted earlier, and to some of the people, is Mr. Firby was also on his own private property, which would exempt him from would actually exempt him from the law. But all of our checks on Mr. Firby, he is a 54-year-old man, law-abiding citizen. He's never been arrested and was simply victimized here in the city of Sarasota, and actually has done nothing against Florida state statute other than simply protecting his own life.
Mr. Firby, have you ever had problems at your home before?
When the home across the street from us was vacant, we'd had problems with people trespassing on the property. Phone lines had been cut. Motion lights been tampered with. But other than that, no.
No pump shotgun?
No.
You and your family was inside the home, correct?
Yes.
Did that go through your head at all when?
Oh yeah. I wasn't going to let them go through the gate. No.
What prompted you to start carrying a weapon?
I watch all these different programs City Confidential, FBI, cops, the whole thing, and the way this world has turned, you have to do something to protect yourself. To be there when you need them.
And you did it the legal way.
Oh yeah.
Because you know there are a lot of people that wouldn't do it the legal way, but you
Well,
did what you did.
that's their problem. I did it the way I was supposed to do it.
When you reached in your pocket, sir, weren't you very, very concerned he's going to shoot you first?
Oh yeah. But I know if he's going to shoot me if I didn't reach in my pocket, so, you know, I took a chance.
What was his reaction when he realized he'd been shot? I mean, did he say anything, or did he just?
He didn't say anything. Like backed up, and you know, again, but I don't know if I hit him the second time or not. But anyway, he immediately turned around and went toward the truck. So I come on into the house because I don't know who was in the truck or what they had, or you know.
Did you say anything to him at any point, or no?
No.
Was there somebody else out in the truck?
There was somebody driving the truck. He got out on the passenger side.
What did that guy do after you shot the other?
I guess he let them in the truck and they took off.
Oh,
After only having this permit for a year, and I guess the gun for a little over a year, are you feeling thankful that you had it?
I didn't have it quite a year, but I'm thankful that I had it that night.
When you got your concealed, did you ever think you would go through something like this?
The way this world is turning, I figured there was a possibility that it could happen.
Seen him before, around the neighborhood or anything?
No, I couldn't see him, but he's had blanket, a shirt or something wrapped around his head, and
I'm sorry, you had it.
some concealment, like a blanket or a shirt or something wrapped around his whole head and face.
Mr. Firby, how old are your children that are in the house?
No, my children don't live in that.
Oh, no.
Yeah, right.
So you don't have little kids at home right now?
Not at home, but I do have little kids.
And you're a father of what, 3 or
5.
5?
He followed you quite a ways.
Yes, he did.
What were you thinking while he was following you?
I was watching him in the rearview mirror thinking, okay, this don't feel right. Something's fixing to jump off, you know, because he was in front of me in the beginning, but then he got into the other opposite lane and then let me get in front of him, and then he made the same turns I did. So that told me right there that something was going to jump off.
That time in the morning, I mean, you knew something was going to go down, so you
Oh,
were
yeah.
prepared?
Oh, yeah.
Why you?
That's what I said. Well, I mean,
You actually, when you pulled into your driveway, though, they weren't, still behind you, or were they?
they were coming down the street as I had just opened the gate, fixing to get into my car to, pull it into the yard. They pulled past my driveway, up on the grass across the street. The guy jumps out the car, says, "Give it up, mister."
You normally keep your gun where? In your glove compartment or something like that?
In my trunk.
In your trunk. So you had already gone around his back and taken your gun out.
Yeah.
Do you do that every night?
Yeah.
Or did you do it knowing that there was trouble coming this time?
No, I do it every night.
You do.
And now just 11 hours later, how are you feeling right now?
Drained, tired, still be with it. Like, why me?
Angry or scared or what else?
Full of anxiety.
Supposed to ask you your day off?
No, they didn't.
When's your shift?
6 o'clock to 2:30.
What you do?
Sort mail.
We're actually asking if he worked at the police department, we'd give him a couple of days off with administrative leave, but he didn't get that.
Right.
The other government didn't do that.
Have you heard from your coworkers calling and checking on you? Or nobody word hasn't spread yet, huh?
Well, most of them were in bed.
Well, that's probably good.
What did your family have to say when after
She was thankful that I didn't get hurt.
Is this going to change your routine now?
I'm going to mix it up a little bit to go different ways and different times, and hopefully that it was just a random act,
When you heard that the victim was a teenager, I mean, you had to do what you had to do to protect yourself, but I'm sure you went through a little bit of inner struggle with that.
When you're looking down the business end of a pump shotgun, you don't have time to ask how old are you, or where you got the gun, or what you plan on doing to me with that gun in your hand.
And you work hard for what you have. I mean, that goes, you're a working class guy, so that must go through your head with what you've got in your house. So you come by it hard, so if somebody comes in to take it.
Well, if you plan on doing bodily harm, what we got to do to protect ourselves.
I asked a question of Mr. Firby when we were downstairs, and he had a previous incident where he had some money on him, and I asked him, and just thinking if this would have really happened and the guy shot him and he didn't defend himself, how much money did you have on him? Mr. Firby, how much money was this all over?
$600.
But this time?
Oh, this time? It wasn't much.
He didn't want to admit it. He had $5 on him. I mean, that's all he had on him was $5. And,
I don't think he was going to accept that. You know what I'm saying? It was like, he wanted some money and some money fast, quick, and, he done already stepped up to the bat, so.
Detective, SMH called you?
I'm sorry?
The hospital called you?
They called the police department, yes.
Yeah, well, we had already we were making calls to area hospitals. When we called them, the way I understand it is they said, yeah, we just had a guy come in, or they called us back. Because, once the initial report happened, I talked to Lieutenant Boyd, and they were doing the routine of, hey, has anybody shown up with a gunshot wound?
Have you issued the arrest warrant for Ellis yet, or no?
We haven't. It was just entered to the clerk's office. It has not been executed yet.
Obviously, he's going to be in the hospital for a little bit.
Correct.
And you have not issued a secondary warrant yet for the driver at this point?
Correct.
Any idea who the driver was?
We have suspicions.
Captain, can you now talk about the state law that's recently changed that will completely exonerate Elliott for what happened?
Yeah, and, I guess I can kind of do the best I can do with it because I don't have it in front of me. But basically, the law was changed to give people the right to protect themselves, self-defense. You can clearly see in the facts of this case, here's a citizen, and this is really what the legislature's design was. Here's an individual that's basically getting home from a hard day's work. As you heard, he's got 5 children. He gets out of the car, and basically the statute has given him the ability to protect himself with, basically immunity or a no liability. And it clears the case immediately instead of, in the old days, running it through, getting the state attorney or somebody to go ahead and review the case. I mean, Mr. Firby made a life and death decision very rapidly, and the state has recognized that certain people are going to have to do that, and there should be some type of immunity or legalization to that. And this is classic to what the statute's designed to do is he's minding his own business. He's got a heightened awareness of his surroundings, but he was looking at dying. And he has every legal right to defend himself, not only on his property, but the state can award him a permit. Once again, he's a classic example of what the statute said. An individual with 54 years old, no criminal record, has worked for the federal government and some entity for 28 years. So this is almost a classic example of what legislation is supposed to do for people. We don't have a widow with 5 children. We have a man that protected his family, protected his whole $5, but it was his $5. And he said earlier, he figured they were going to take the car too, because the money wasn't going to be enough. So the law basically was written and designed for people just like Elliott Firby.
This law covers the fact that whether he had a concealed weapons or not, in this situation, he was within the law.
Right. I mean, actually, you actually have several prongs of the law that Mr. Firby did. Even if he hadn't had a permit, he had every legal right to defend himself, which was the original question. He's taken it even farther that he can protect himself and carry the firearm on his person. He didn't have to retreat back to the car, open the trunk. He secures the firearm in his trunk when he's at home, but he actually carries it on his person while he's in transit from one place to another. So I guess it is, he covers both legislation. One is that you can protect yourself with it concealed, but also you have the right to defend yourself. So, that's it. Jim, did you have anything?
I was just going to say, why do you think they picked you? Were you the only one out there that night? Because it was kind of late.
It was 2:45 in the morning. I get up at 2:30, so they go any target that they can zero in on. I guess that's what it was.
And there weren't that many other cars on the road.
No.
If you could talk to the suspect right now, what would you say to him?
I don't say nothing to him. I didn't say nothing to him last night.
Ms. Firby, have you had any sleep yet?
No.
You haven't been back to bed yet?
No.
Are you going to take a sick day today?
I'm trying to.
The police department offered him a complimentary water, and Mr. Firby declined our request. He just wants to go to bed. So, and I tried to explain to him that you're all very good people, and that you have your job to do. And he wanted to address the questions. I appreciate on such short notice to come down and do this. This is very unique. I'm not a very good PIO in the first place, but I think it gives you all a good chance to come down and meet him, so he can go home. You can see that he's the real guy. And he just wants to go home, just like he did yesterday when he woke up. He just wants to be left alone. And, I appreciate it. If you have any other questions, but he's really tired, and he won't even take anything free from the police department. I will not offer anyone on this side of the table anything for free. But
now, his gun was taken as part of the investigation, correct?
right, and luckily Mr. Firby has guaranteed me his wife has a firearms permit. They will use that for protection until we can get that back in Tommy. I don't know how long that's going to be. We will expedite the evidence as quick as possible, but it is evidence in a case no different than any other shooting. If it was a police shooting, we confiscate those as evidence also.
But
So
you have a secondary firearm, Mr.
that's
Firby.
me.
You have a secondary firearm.
My old lady has one.
She can't get yours back soon enough, can you?
My pillow don't feel right.
So, Detective, when do you think that the suspect might go from the hospital to the jail?
It depends on his injuries.
What condition is he in?
The injury is the same as an abdomen wound. I'm not sure what all organs or tissue, what part of the tissues it hit and went through.
Did it go through all the way through?
No.
No.
What's the charge he faces?
Attempted armed robbery with a firearm.
Which is a felony, correct?
Correct.
Well, anything with a firearm is a felony.
Correct.
And actually, we get back and I'll interject here. This is exactly what also legislatures looked at under the 1020 life statute. So there's actually 3 or 4, shall I say, fairly new laws that the legislature has enacted, let alone the 1020 life, the carrying a concealed firearm permit, and also the right to protect yourself. You're also looking at 1020 life in the gun statute, and I'm sure another one we can always throw in there that we like in law enforcement, the 85% rule.
Right.
So, there's a whole lot of things that came together in this case as far as what the laws pertain to protect people like Mr. Firby.
Did the shotgun come back to the Ellis household, or did it have any particular...
No, it did not.
I'm sorry?
No, it did not.
Who was the releasing who was the particular owner of this shotgun?
We're not going to release that this time. Sorry.
But it did trace back to somebody.
I'm not going to say. Sorry.
The possible suspect that was maybe the driver, what kind of charges, when you find him, what kind of charges is he facing?
Probably at least principal to attempted armed robbery.
Would he have a firearm charge? Could you stick that person with one even if he wasn't carrying the weapon, but he knew the weapon was there to be used?
He'd be considered a principal to the crime.
So the 1020 life applies to him.
Correct.
Anything else?